Downloadable content in its current form has been around since 2005, with Microsoft pushing for the same through its Xbox Live Marketplace. It was viewed as the start of a horrible trend. Over time, DLC would become more substantial and present value, but that doesn't mean that every piece of paid post-launch content was a good deal. Let's take a look at 15 DLCs and games that induced rage in some way or another. Destiny: The Dark Below. 4 story missions, each taking place in the base game's levels, except backwards. 2 strikes, 1 being exclusive to PlayStation players for a year. A short and buggy raid that was best completed by pulling the LAN cable from one's router. Destiny was quite the meme when it first launched, and there was no bigger meme than The Dark Below, which cost a whopping $20 standalone. Have fun completing the content in a week or two, and then waiting 5 months for more. Borderlands: Mad Moxxi's Underdome Riot. Borderlands caused quite the stir when it first launched its looter-shooter gameplay, so DLC wasn't exactly unwelcome. Unfortunately, Mad Moxxi's Underdome Riot wasn't the best. For $10, players essentially got a horde mode with 3 arenas. Not the best value for sure, but the arenas themselves were also incredibly boring, and kills didn't even provide experience points. But for those who wanted an additional skill point or the bank for storing items, it was a necessary evil. The Division Underground. In theory, a procedurally generated dungeon taking place in Manhattan's winding underground tunnels could have been fun. In practice, the Division's Underground DLC didn't offer much variety, and its lack of checkpoints made an annoying experience all the more insufferable for solo players, especially considering the game's bullet sponge enemies at the time. The new incursion was fun, but the new gear sets were underwhelming as a whole. Code Vein: Hellfire Knight, Frozen Empress, Lord of Thunder. For as fun as Code Vein was, its DLC was quite the price gouge. Each DLC includes a new super tough boss that makes your life miserable. Want to unlock the new weapons and cosmetics? Have fun besting these bosses and challenges that require taking no damage or using healing items. Each of these DLC cost $10, and while also adding new areas to the depths, they just weren't substantial or fun additions to the game. Mass Effect 3: From Ashes. The Protheans are a key part of the entire franchise, and with the Reapers attacking in Mass Effect 3, having the last Prothean on your side would have been quite the benefit. So, of course, BioWare and EA deemed it necessary to lock this behind paid DLC, and threw in the new particle rifle and alternate outfits for other squad mates for good measure. Even better, it was Day 1 DLC, meaning it could have, and should have, been included with the game. Dead Space 3: Awakened. While Dead Space 3 wasn't the worst game ever made, it was still a very big step down from its predecessors, with less survival horror, needless co-op, and microtransactions. Awakened attempted to add the horror back in, while also recycling content and providing an even worse story. It felt like a sham at $10, one made all the worse since it contained the true ending. Tekken 7 Season 1 and 3. Aside from Season 2, the remaining season passes for Tekken 7 have been very underwhelming. Additional characters in fighting games can often be a sore subject, but providing just 2 characters in Season Pass 1 or a whopping 3 characters in Season Pass 3 isn't the best value. The current pass is all the more infuriating for including the frame data display, an essential tool for fighting game players to hone their timing and combos, as DLC. Whether standalone or as part of a season pass, such a tool belongs in the game, end of story. Fallout 4 Vault-Tec Workshop. It's amazing how Bethesda could release Automaton, a Fallout 4 DLC that offered a decent story and interesting enemies along with the ability to build robot companions, and then followed it up with so much boring settlement construction DLC. Parts don't connect properly, the construction budget is limited, and there really isn't any vault management to speak of. Bugs also rule the roost, but what else is new in Bethesda land? The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild: The Master Trials. The season pass for Breath of the Wild marked the start of something new for Nintendo. Unfortunately, the Master Trials DLC kind of started things off on the wrong foot. The DLC is about clearing 45 different challenge rooms in the Trial of the Sword and powering up the Master Sword, or having it stay in its powered up form essentially. However, such content should have just been in the base game. This applies to other features in the DLC like Hard Mode or the Travel Medallion, the latter being an excellent award for completing the campaign. Batman Arkham Knight, A Matter of Family. A lot of the DLC in Batman Arkham Knight Season Pass ended up being forgettable or just plain boring. A Matter of Family, which stars Batgirl, disappoints all the more because it's so obviously meant as padding. There's a unique area, but it's never fleshed out nor interesting. Batgirl gets a few new takedown animations, but otherwise just plays like Batman. The hacking, well, let's not get into the hacking. Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, The Battle of Endor. You get to kill Ewoks in this DLC. That's about where the positives end, as the story sees evil Starkiller traveling to Endor during the events of Return of the Jedi. So you'll be killing Chewbacca, Han Solo, and eventually Leia Organa. Oh, and Leia's a Jedi now. There's not even close enough content to justify the amount of lore breaking, and don't even get us started on how Darth Vader is written off in what is arguably the worst true ending this series has to offer. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. Machine Games' Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus had its fair share of mixed opinions due to the level design, story, and overall length. However, pretty much everyone can agree that the Freedom Chronicles, comprised of 3 DLC episodes along with Episode 0, are just the worst. Each episode features a different character, which sounds cool. However, the levels are taken from the base game's campaign with few interesting things added. The storytelling is even worse, and, of course, each episode is fairly short. Adding further insult to injury is the fact that the Season Pass costs $24.99, while the base game is just $40. Fable 2: Knothole Island. With a whopping 2 hours of content, even if you run around doing everything, Knothole Island isn't the best reason to revisit Fable 2. The whole point of the story is being able to resurrect the player's dog who died in the main quest. That's pretty much it, along with a few new items and quests. Again, something that should have been in the main game, but was chopped up just to sell separately. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, Very Hard Sonic Missions. What's worse than playing through Sonic the Hedgehog 2006? A lot of things, but there's very little rewarding about completing the experience, except for the option to play Sonic's missions at very hard difficulty. You need to pay for this, of course, which just feels all the more insulting with how bad the base game was. Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Once again, additional characters in a fighting game, especially those that must be paid for, can be a sore subject. However, including not 1, not 2, but 12 DLC fighters on the disc for Street Fighter Cross Tekken was the wrong way to go about things. If said fighters were already done by launch, why not just include them in the game, which is still a pretty big deal for the genre these days. Capcom didn't help matters by stating that they were included on disc simply as a way to save space. And that wraps it up. If you like what we are doing, please consider subscribing to our channel, and don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon. That way you will never miss out on any of our videos.